Hello and welcome to another This is the Music podcast. This week we are joined by Frankie, Leon and Liam from the Thieves, who are based in County Durham. Thanks very much for coming on today, lads. How are you all doing?
Yeah, we're all right.
Good, man.
Yeah, not bad, mate. Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah, can't complain. Life's pretty good. All good down this end. So can you tell the listeners a little bit about how the band started, how the three of you met, and where did you get the name of the band from?
Go on, Frankie.
Well, I know. So I was in a band at school, and I was just sort of doing like covers and stuff like that, and like gigging around the local area. And I met Liam like was it 4 or 5 years before you actually joined the band.
Oh yeah.
So
we've known of each other.
Yeah, we've known of each other for like quite a while because our dads like they've been friends since they were kids. Like we went to school together and stuff like that. So me and I was like five odd years ago. I was doing a gig somewhere like playing covers, and Liam was in the foyer doing like an acoustic thing, and we just sort of got introduced to each other there. And then after that, we just we bumped into each other without like very impromptu at gigs. Absolutely, yeah, hammered. And so we used to go to there's like a festival that we go to that's like quite local that we always bumped into each other. We met as well at a Twisted Wheel gig in Newcastle. And then just from then, every single time I'd meet him at a gig, I kept on saying, "You still playing bass? Yeah, you should come join my band." And every time it was like, no, for 5 years. And then one time I was like, "Right, Liam, seriously." And then he came to see us, and then he was just like, "Yeah, but." And then I met Leon. Leon put an advert out on Facebook saying, well, we first sort of met at that festival, didn't that 499 festival? You played 2 nights off the bat, didn't you? One with... there's a video somewhere of it actually. I did a fest like with that band, so the band The Thieves sort of existed before. It was sort of like me being younger and being like in a covers band, and then sort of getting older, and we didn't change the name because it built up too much sort of hype. So I met Leon because I was doing a gig there, and Leon was playing with 2 bands, one on one day and then one on the other.
I've been kicking about for about 300 years, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we sort of met informally there, and then he put an advert out on Facebook saying like drummer looking for band, will play anything. And I just straight up shot him a message and
drummer looking for band.
Yeah. And straight away I just kind of went, "Look, do you want to come join my band?" And I didn't really need, some drummers you like audition and stuff like that. I just didn't. We didn't need. There's no sort of question about it. So yeah, that was sort of that. We did our first gig as us 3 at a place in Bishop. We did like a local gig at a place called the Pavilion. Yeah. 27th.
2019. Was it?
2019. Yeah.
December
2019. So, yeah.
Oh no.
But so that was that, and the name it come from. So there's loads and loads of stories about it, and you just kind of go for whichever one sounds coolest. And
sounded cool.
Yeah, just sound cool. But the origin, the reason is because it's from Thick as Thieves by the Jam. It was sort of that, and at the time that at the time when I was like sort of at school, it was very much my thing. I always came to school with like a parka on, flooded with patches and stuff like that.
Mod, wasn't it?
Proper, yeah. Yeah. Where you pull out like a big target tattoo on your leg. But so I and it's somewhere in one of my old school planners, loads of old band names, and one of them was The Thieves, and I just thought like, why there's loads of bands called The Thieves? I don't know, there's like 5 bands called Thieves, I don't even know them, but just kind of thought, it sort of looks cool, sort of went with sort of the music that it said a lot about, like it said a lot without saying much, sort of. It was very like, yeah, it sounds really cool. It sounds really cool. And that was that. So yeah, it was just off Thick as Thieves by the Jam, really. And and then the Jam being sort of a big influence on me growing up. And then you can sort of hear it in the music, but not so much that you sound like one of them other bands from Top of the Pops back in 1980.
Yeah, no, definitely. I get what you're saying. You can hear the influence, but you've obviously got your own sort of style there, which actually takes us on to leads us on quite nicely to the next question, which is, how would you describe your music? So if I've never ever heard you before, what would you say? What sort of style are you?
I would sort of say, if it's anything, it's honest. Like we're not one of these bands that play with like backing tracks of explosions and helicopters noises going on in the background. Very much like your ambient whale noises. None of that crack. It's just like it's just raw, honest, sort of aggressive music that like a lot of people like. A lot of what we're saying reflects like our circumstances and our reality is like, sort of like three working class lads. So it's very much like it's just that's what it is. Like we're just singing about our circumstances and our reality, and it's very much like it's just raw, honest, and aggressive, really.
Quite punky.
Yeah, it is. It's quite
edge and that, isn't it?
Yeah. We're not. Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of bands nowadays that are very that like loads of big label bands sort of think it's corny to be a like a band that has a bit of attitude and plays guitars and has a bit of like distortion and stuff. You always have kind of contradicts himself because they sound cringy as anything. But it's we're just not we're not trying to be like every other band nowadays. You can listen to 5 bands on Spotify and they can all sound the same. And everybody thinks that like being like a guitar driven band is such a cliche, but it just isn't anymore.
Yeah.
Always, one thinks there has to be something else going on to make it so different. When really you just got to sift through the crap, and that's like, and you're there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're saying there about like being honest in the lyrics and in the songs. I mean, personally speaking, I think that makes it easy for the audience to connect with you as a band. And I can definitely hear that, and I totally appreciate that in your in the songs that all of your songs that I've heard, actually, I should say, but so far. So when it comes to sort of like writing your songs, what's the creative process? Do you already have the lyrics and the guitar part written, and then the other two come along and say, well, this is how I'm going to do my drum bit, or how does it work?
Yeah, I mean, I'll sit at home and I'll have like a sort of song in my head, and I'll write. If I have lyrics first, sometimes lyrics just sort of come out of this. Usually, I tend to write like I'm really sort of like dyslexic in the way that I put songs together, because I'll write the third or second line of the chorus before I write the start of it or something like that. You know what I mean?
Like, that sounds cool.
Like it's like you'd write something like, living on a prayer before you write whoa, we're halfway there or some crap like that. Like yeah. But that's sort of how I think. We've got this sort of inside joke about the whole like American rock thing. I can't go in depth to explain it. It's too bad. Like I feel like
he just comes in. He's like, I've got this song. What do you think? Like, that sounds good.
He posts the demos to the WhatsApp groups.
Yeah,
I don't listen to them.
Yeah.
Have you learned that song?
So
I never listen to it. I don't even go on my WhatsApp anymore, to be honest with you.
But I like
it. Send out a fucking postcard if you want, to be honest with you.
Smoke signal. I'll write it. I'll write what if it's during the day. I'll record what, because I've got like a little setup at home, so I'll record it on software and put together like a little 2-minute version of it, and then I'll just send it to the lads, and then I'll come in with the lyrics, and then the lyrics will usually happen in the practice room. But then Liam will be like, "What's the chords to it?" So I'll send him the chords, and then we'll get in the room and like I'll play something on the demo, and then then these two will come along, and it will sound like 100 times better because I'm not a bass player and I'm not a drummer, so I'll just put it together for reference, and then
put your spins on it, don't we?
Exactly. We always sort of put our own spin on it, and then it just goes. And then sometimes there'll be a bit like we've got a song that we were working on today, and it was about 2 minutes long or something like that. Now it's ended up being like we had a sort of an extra couple of seconds here and there with like new sections that we decided to put in, so it's not just as linear. So really, it's like I'll bring like a bit like a skeleton of it, or like just a really really rough demo. And then we'll just go right,
put the meat on the bones.
And then we'll put the meat on the bones, which is like
sounds like a great process there. So, obviously MTV was your last single release, which is doing fairly well on Spotify. and it's obviously a really up-tempo song, and I feel it's got a bit of a punky vibe about it as well.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration behind the song?
The inspiration behind the song, it's about I've got like a long answer and a short answer. The kind of abrupt, yeah. The short answer is it's just about how much I despise reality telly. I absolutely hate it. Like Big Brother, Love Island. Oh,
Love Island.
Horrible, man. And like even stuff like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, like who cares? Like, come on, man. And it's just about that really, and it's about it sets a really negative example for a lot of people who can't really obtain that. Like, to be that type of person on Love Island, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, you have to be a very specific type of person. That
A millionaire.
You either have to be desperate or rich.
Yeah.
And that's really it. So, and like I see in my town people pretending to be who they're not. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, definitely.
Rub the shop floors and Morrison's and be an absolute, just work till their bones end. That's the real them. And then they'll go out the weekend and they'll be the same color as my jacket, and like, everything they're wearing is fake. So it's just about like looking at someone who you can clearly see why they're like that, and you're sort of cringing at it. But yeah, it's just, and it's sort of, when I wrote it, it was around the time that a lot of people who had been on Love Island and stuff like that were committing, like I'd seen a lot of things on the telly about them committing suicide because they haven't been on the show.
Yeah.
And they've sort of, they felt like they just, they lost who they were because they weren't on the telly.
Yeah.
And they sort of like needing that amount of validation. It's just really unhealthy. And like, you don't, and it's sort of, for me, as like an 18-year-old lad, and I'm still witnessing it now. There's a lot of, they sort of set this really negative example of you need a really toned body and white teeth and this and this and this and this to,
girls be as skinny as you can be and all this, and
it's just really unhealthy. And like they're saying like this is what you need to be liked, loved, and deemed, acceptable in society.
Yeah.
And it's just not. Is it? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, definitely.
You'll see people who've had so much plastic surgery, and everybody thinks they look mint, but you look at them and they look like Pete Burns, and you're a bit like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Totally agree with you.
That, but yeah, no, to be honest, it's really upset. Like all sort of jokes aside, it's really upsetting to see. You know what I mean? Because you can look at somebody and they could say they're okay, and because they're all dolled up like that, but you can look in their eyes and it's just, like there's nobody home. They're just, So it's just really about how sort of annoying it is to see that, and how people thinking sort of, and Godspeed help them, with them if they need, if they want to go and get help, like that thing. But just to see it, it makes you, makes me feel very angry, and it makes me feel very sad that still is a thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that people need this, and this, all this validation to be comfortable within themselves. So it's just about that really, and just sort of saying that you don't need this shit, because really you're burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah, sure. That's a great, brilliant answer. And I'm actually surprised that more, not just like upcoming bands like yourselves, but even more, like the bigger name bands and stuff actually haven't touched on this subject a little bit more, actually. And I think everything that you've said there, especially a bit about the obsession with reality TV is spot on, and something that I definitely agree with. I think it's gone crazy now, really, the obsession with it and stuff.
I think the thing with a lot of big bands is because you get to a certain point in your popularity that you stop becoming what your audience, like the same thing as your audience.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite a sort of thing. I think I was watching the sort of Oasis documentary where Noel Gallagher was saying we were the same as our audience at one point, so they felt more relatable. Then you get all this money and suddenly you got a fur jacket and a chimpanzee and you're just not the same as everybody else. And it is sort of that. And I feel like if, it's sort of like if it's the very strong matter to them, but if it's not and you're just writing about it because you think the kids are all about this, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna be down with the kids, then you kind of pulling a bit of a Bob Geldof, and it's not really, you just look a bit embarrassing. It's like, how can you be like that? You've got like a mill to your name, be quiet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So obviously with the recording of that song, obviously with COVID and everything, did that affect anything at all for you recording this one? Or
Yeah,
obviously
we
you mentioned before
a lot of
home.
it before COVID.
That and Bulletproof
Yeah,
together.
we did that and Bulletproof in the same day. Wait, it was a couple of weeks before the lockdown happened. So our producer, when he came to the practice space with like a portable rig to do drums.
Yeah.
And we did the drums for both songs in one day.
Right.
And then a couple of days after, we came. I think I came to like with you to his house.
Yeah.
We did the bass there. We did the guitars there as well.
Yeah.
Or was the guitars on a separate day? I think the guitars was on a separate day.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
now.
I think
Ages ago.
Yeah, it was ages ago.
ago.
We did the basses on one day and then the guitars on another day. And then we had the whole backing of the song done. And then lockdown obviously happened. We were a bit like, oh shit. So we had I like said the setup I had at home. So at the time, so I had like just a lot of I wanted to sort of set up a studio in my bedroom. I sort of have done everything I've kind of accumulated has been over like Christmases and birthdays and stuff like that. I've gone, Frankie, do you want these new pair of jeans for birthday? I'm like, no, I'll still wear the ones that I've had since I was 15, but these two studio monitors is a bit like that. So by halfway through lockdown, I sort of had this a good enough setup to go, right, okay, I need to record these songs now. So
I got pants and socks for Christmas.
yeah, you did. Yeah, I'm getting to that age now where it's after shaving pants and socks, and I'm like, nah,
oh, it'll come back and catch up with you, trust me.
But yeah, the vocals for the songs were done in lockdown, so they were done in my bedroom.
Right.
So I'd done, that was quite odd. To be honest, literally they were all done like I'd close my bedroom door and like push loads of stuff against it to try and soundproof it almost, and put loads of pillows and that was it. I put my bed sheet over the door, close the door, and try and soundproof my room. So I did the vocals for that and the backing vocals for that. And then it was just a case of sort of sending it back and forth and stuff, and then me sending my stuff to Wayne mixing it, sending it back to us. There was a lot of mixing over FaceTime, which was quite odd, because obviously the speakers and stuff like that. And then me sending it to the lads, lads, what do you think? And then us talking together in like a couple of Zoom calls. And then when we put it out, we were like, yeah, this is for what we've done over lockdown. We were like, yeah, this is all right. This, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So, okay, so growing up, who or what are your musical influences and idols? Obviously, we've mentioned the Jam, and I can see obviously there's the Specials T-shirt as well there. Aside from those two, is there anyone else that had a big influence on you three?
The Who.
The Who's
under mine.
The Clash for me, like
he gets the Keith Moon comparison all the time when we play live. Like.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, not in. He's not like a liability or anything like that. All over the drum kit. I've seen the photo.
I've grown up now that way. Yeah. Some sort of fashion.
But no, just the general thing. I think for me, a big one sort of be Rolling Stones are a big one for me, and I think. Don't know, Rolling Stone, like, because I've grown up with sort of two things of music taste. My mum's from down south, but my dad's from north, so I've sort of grown up with the sort of north, sort of south divide thing in the house. So when I growing up, my dad would always listen to like Madness and like Paul Weller and Small Faces, another big one for me, especially Steve Murray, it's great.
Yeah.
And like all that sort of thing. And then my mum's side is like Sort of Soul, Nile Rodgers, stuff like that, and like a lot of like the 90s sort of house stuff like Snap, and I've just sort of grown up like say between the two and not being like, because you get a lot of people who are very set in the ways about music. They're like, I like this, which means I can't like that, like that whole like mods and rockers thing in it. It's like, wait, come on, like
like what you like.
Yeah, exactly. You like what you like. There's no room to be elitist, or else you're just never gonna get anywhere,
Right,
Yeah, and so I think for me, a big one was definitely like the Rolling Stones, Brian Jones from Rolling Stones, and like he's just great. And I think Mick Jagger's a very underrated singer. I'm just going to controversial statement, but T-Rex as well is a very big one for me. But then in terms of like bands that sort of really slapped us in the face, and I'm like, holy Christ, it'd probably be first time I properly listened to the Jam, because you can have that stage where you listen to Town Called Madison Going Underground, and like that's entertainment, that's the big three, and then you sort of listen to stuff like,
and you listen to Setting Sun's album,
Yeah.
it's like,
And you
it's
listen to, like,
absolutely
In the
fucking
City.
brilliant, like, you know.
yeah, stuff like In the City was very like, I know I have very like phases where I'll find a new band and it'll be the same sort of feel I get when I listen to the first one. So I think, yeah, sort of the Stones, T-Rex, Stone Roses are a big one for me as well. Just John Squire's entire technicality. But yeah, I think we've all sort of grown up with the same. We've all grown up with the same but different things. So like, I'll listen to Who and I'll listen to Clash, and like Leon's into Stone Roses.
I'll
and,
listen,
like,
I'll listen to things like that,
Yeah.
and Alabama 3 and Thither and things like that, and
Yeah,
just a whole variety of things like that.
Bit of everything.
just a bit of everything. What's your favorite song? Was it last night? DJ Saved My Life. So. He keeps on messaging me drunk, going, Frankie, we need to do a cover, and last night the DJ Saved My Life.
It's stuck in my head on
We get,
repeat.
and when we're on the way to gigs, we get a bit of Madonna going in the van.
Oh, we love
yes.
Wingfield Saturday night.
Yeah, man. Honestly, like on the way to a gig, it's just like a party bus in it. It's just, like, get into the groove, just steaming down the Yeah, I think that's really about it. Just another big one for me, and I see a few bands, like when I listen to other interviews, a lot of bands pick up on it, but Green Day were quite a big one for
They
me.
were one of my biggest growing up.
Green Day, like, you know, from what had been of punk beforehand and what it was sort of turning into, Green Day was sort of like this, they were spearheading that, and especially if, like, say, for a 3-piece, and then you get the whole thing of reinvention, don't you? Like David Bowie did it obscene amount of times, but then Green Day from going from Dookie to then like Nimrod and stuff like that, to then going to like some like American Idiot and just going like that. I think them for me, because they were sort of I know I had a weird sort of, in terms of, you know, people sort of grow up with they grow up at times that bands are coming out, don't they?
Yeah.
So like for my dad, he was growing up when like the sort of Stone Roses were coming about and stuff like that, and you were more like the Arctic Monkeys first album.
So I had 2 older brothers, so I grew up with the Jam and the Who and all that, and the Stone Roses and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And then when I hit my stride, it was the Killers, it was the Arctic Monkeys, it was the Fratellis and all that sort of stuff.
That's
So
sort of
and I was listening to Pink Floyd as well, and
yeah,
Noughties was class, like.
watching Robocop.
You're more like The View and stuff like that,
I
aren't you?
love it, the View, like.
For me, my sort of time growing up was when the Arctic Monkeys released AM. This is how young I am. I was about 11, 12 when they released AM. And then I was halfway through school, so for me, like, I was like just starting school, and it was AM, and it was the Catfish and the Bottlemen's first album, and stuff like that. And then I got into that, and then I got into Oasis and stuff. And then after that, I made a beeline for the Small Faces, and then just went up through that, and then just sort of keep doing sort of loops every once in a while. So we just start reading music-wise. We're coming a lot around.
Hey, nothing wrong with that at all, in my opinion. So obviously the people and the bands there that you've just discussed, did they have any influence on you, like personally, through like your personalities or like your sense of style or anything like that at all?
Keith Milne did on me, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah.
I'd just go out and get as fucked up as I could, to be honest with you. I thought at one point you just had to be wrecked to go on stage. Sort of thing. If you want to tell you out the window and things like that.
Now he's scared
Not
of a
yet.
fight, isn't he?
Remember York roll about 6 pints thick.
That would be done like that. Oh, but yeah, I think Keith Milne.
Brilliant.
Honest with you, anyway, I've got endless amount of books about him, about the Who and things like that, and I think I wish I was a bit more like him, to be honest. But
I mean, not really, because he's like dead. So
I think I'd
love to be like Keith Moon. Why? Because he's dead. I don't know. I think for me, I mean, when I sort of like saying hit, in Leon's words, hit the stride. For me, it was very like, it was like Liam Gallagher was like the first thing, like just the sheer amount of confidence and like balls it takes just to stand on stage. You know, you're not doing the whole Mick Jagger thing where you're jumping around like a cockerel all the time, and you're just standing there, and you stand there and you take care of business. And that, for me, that was very like. But then as I got a bit older, it was more like the way my dad always used to tell me is you don't always need to be John. Sometimes the coolest one is George. and George is the coolest people in my opinion. But so it was sort of that going through that stage, and people like, you know, Liam Gallagher was a big one for me. Like I said before, Brian Jones from the Rolling Stones, because not many people actually know how much he contributed to the sound of the band.
Yeah.
So, like stuff like Ruby Tuesday and like 1,000 Light Years Away from Home and Under My Thumb, classic example. Like stuff like that. Like he knew what he was on about. He wasn't messing around. You know what I mean? Like the Stones was very much like his, you know, it was his sound, his band. So I think people like that, and Paul Weller, you know, the guy's just, he's done everything. He's been great at it all, you know. And I think as well, he started when the Jam sort of took off. He was about my age, so, and I think for when I was younger, I was a bit sort of, I was really into a band called the Stripes.
Yeah.
Who are great, you know, and when they all made it big, the singer was only about 13.
Was he?
Yeah, he was only about 13 when he signed to like a major record label, and they all got took out of school and everything. So for me growing up, I thought, Jesus Christ, that's going to be, you know, I need to do that. I need to get famous before I can do my GCSEs, so I don't have to do them. But obviously that was not the case. And,
Unfortunately
not. No. But really, like they were quite a big influence on me, you know, because they were a young band. It proved you don't need to be a certain age to do it. You can be any age and do it, and it's like they proved that you can be taken seriously as well. So I think, yeah, and like I said, Paul Weller was just like, I remember the first time I properly got into the Jam and stuff like that, and it got to the point where I'm sitting downstairs, like watching hour-long Jam concerts and stuff like that, and you just don't get bored. Like I've sat down and watched the Hyde Park one that he did, where there's a full-on, he just goes on for like half an hour doing a full-on jazz sort of interlude thing. And Alan White does this big, that's Steve White, his brother, isn't it?
Yeah, Steve White was the
Steve does this big drum solo and they come back in, and it's just like, as in, his musicianship just off the charts, like it's absolutely class. So Weller, Jones, and Gallagher are the ones for me. Like,
Liam?
he looked at himself in the mirror and goes, yeah.
Wear what I want to wear, like.
If it looks good, you're chucking it on.
Yeah, we are.
So obviously we're now near enough back to normality. Have you guys got any gigs lined up at all for 2021? And if you have, and if anyone's coming down to see you, what can they expect from one of your sets?
A lot of sweat. Yeah.
Energy.
A lot of energy.
Yeah. I think if you come down to a Thieves gig, just don't wear shoes that you value, because they'll get trod on. I don't really know what to say. Like, I don't really want to say anything to thing, because then people know what I expect. I like to come to gigs and sort of catch people off guard a little bit. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, providing that slap in the face that we got when we first listened to bands and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think
Sure.
if anybody, if you're coming down to a Thieves gig, and it'll be better. I think just, you know, I just go mental.
Bring your dancing shoes, man.
Yeah, bring your dancing shoes and just go for it, because, you know, we don't play any acoustic songs. So that's all I'm gonna outline there. We don't play acoustic songs. We don't play ballads.
No, we've got a few gigs lined up for the.
We've got quite a few. Yeah,
year,
we're quite busy. Yeah, at first gigs June. We've got a couple of headliners booked in, and we've got a good. And all the ones that are confirmed are 15th of October. We're supporting Shader at Q Bar in Stockton.
Yes.
And we're playing the 11th or the 9th of September. It's the 11th, isn't it?
No, I think it's.
Have you got the date on your
in
phone?
October as well, isn't it?
We've got quite a few in October. Yeah, here we are. Right. So, yeah, so we're on.
As you can see, we know exactly what we're doing and when we're doing it.
Yeah. So yeah. But I don't get told due to like, oh, we've got this gig somewhere, and I'm like, what?
There's not even that many. Like, when you see these bands with massive tourists, I think, how would you know? Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, considering there was nothing in there at all for 2021, you thought, fucking hell, this year is going to be the same as last year with nothing there. And then Sandra, Frankie's mum, who manages us, has just been getting like, can you do this date? Can you do that date? I've got this date. I've got that date. And honestly, the diary's filling up. And at the minute, what Sandra's saying is she's getting inquiries, And I think we're going to have to, might have to turn something down because we're getting that busy and there's
Yeah.
that much. Feels like there's some sort of buzz happening at the minute. Like
we got turned down for we got quite a few gigs in Stockton. We got turned down for one because the promoters were like, because we got us on at a few gigs, the same promoter, they were like, come on, we need to give the other bands a chance because we're playing like the three venues in Stockton. We're playing all three of them, some of them twice over. So it's like they were like, come on, guys. But yeah, so we're playing on the 28th of August. We're playing Clooney 2 in Newcastle, and then the 11th of September we're playing the Green Room in Stockton, and then the 18th of September we've just confirmed we're playing the Point in Sunderland, supporting a social room with this feeling that needs to be. It'll be announced close at the time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
People are watching, get your notepad and your pen out. Because like,
we won't remember, right?
Yeah, we won't remember. One we will to spell. Then we've got the 15th of October, Q-Bar Stockton. That's November, isn't it? No, October. It's October.
Yeah. It's the 10th of October, right? 11th of November, right?
I'm so bad with this. The 28th of October, we're playing Think Tank in Newcastle with This Feeling. And then we are playing another headliner at the Any Volume Bar in Stockton.
Hit the ground running.
Yeah, we're just hitting the ground running. We didn't want to be one of these bands that didn't book gigs because we don't know what the ground's going to be like in a couple of weeks or here and there and everywhere. Yeah. We just thought, get them booked because it's like there's a clear road out of lockdown and progress is being made. So it's a bit like, well, we're gonna have to start now. You know,
it's a shame to see things get cancelled and rescheduled. But I'd rather have it booked in.
Yeah,
it's something to work towards.
And we've got something to work towards, and we've got exciting plans for the studio and all. We've got some couple like singles here and there sort of coming out. We've got a lot of people coming on board that are really, you know, we've surrounded because, you know, in a lot of music sort of business, you get a lot of, that's what I'm looking for, a lot of vampires, some would say, you know, a lot of people who fill your head full of shit and you won't get anything. That's right, you know what I mean? They'll offer you this and this and this.
Get your deal with Marshall, get your deal with Vic Firth. Go on, mate, and then you just fucking. You know what I mean?
So, and I think now we've got a good team backing us. We've got lots of good people.
Yeah.
You know, who are, you know, they believe in what we do because being from the town that we're from, there's not a musical legacy, so to speak.
We have to travel like an hour to get to a scene, really.
It's like, so we're part way between, so Newcastle and Sunderland are the big towns for us, and Stockton, and they're all about the same time distance drive. You know, the only sort of musical artist to come from County Durham really was Gem Archer from Oasis.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
and apart from that, no bands.
Not much else, is it?
No bands.
Spread out. There's like villages and towns.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Yeah. There's nothing, no big hub.
There's not much of like a music scene, like on our doorstep, really. Is that?
No, there's not. There's like loads of bands that like do covers and they just don't want to do anything.
You've got to go out and you've got to travel to your cities and things like that. We haven't got that luxury of being in the heart of a city where you can play 7 different venues.
Yeah.
You know, every night of the week and have a different crowd every single night of the week, sort of thing. So you're having to go disperse into all these different cities as well. So
loads of bands are always like, oh well, we've worked double as hard as so and so because we've got this sound. It's so hard to, like, you know, we're from Liverpool and it's so hard to break out of that thing because of the Beatles, or we're from Sheffield and it's so hard to break out of that stigma because of the Arctic Monkeys. It's like, yeah, well, we have to break all them stigmas and we don't have a town to come from. So stop bloody complaining. Like a musical.
We don't actually have any like venues.
We don't have any venues either.
No, like we have boozers and stuff.
Yeah,
like the boozers and that.
There's a lot of potential, but no one's really exploring it. Like the hometown show we did, that was in like, it had just been converted into sort of a club, and they put club nights on and stuff like that. And that night was sheerly local hype. Like loads of people, and like there was like friends and family, and then like half the town came as well, to the point where like the audience were as close to us as we are to each other now. It was like proper sweaty, intimate dude. And it was about 300 odd people in that.
First gig, that.
It was his first gig, and
I was bricking it.
Wow.
Wow. What?
And he had like people like spilling over the stage and like, people like.
Well, now I know fully what to expect from one of your gigs then.
Oh God, yeah. If you check us out on if you know, if you if you're going on social media and stuff, and you're going out, there's a link tree thing. Like there's a link in our bio, and you go at the bottom, there's a YouTube channel. You can check. There's a couple of live footage gigs on there of like what to really expect, so to speak. And that's just about it. Like I say, we just go absolutely hell for leather when it comes to live. Like, you know, you can't
just go out and just give it, just try and smash it.
Do our thing.
Doesn't matter whether you're playing to one person or 1,000 people, will go out and smash it.
Yeah.
Every gig is important as the last anywhere, sort of thing.
We've got a lot to prove because we're not following anything, so we have to sort of pay, you know, not be pretentious and say pave the way, but we've got sort of, you know, we want to put ourselves and where we're from on the map. So then, you know, that's, you know, so we've got to try. If bands nowadays are trying double as hard, we're trying like quadruple as hard.
And I want to get out of that warehouse.
Yeah, we all want to get out of jobs.
About it.
You know,
that's all.
I must say the like the enthusiasm that you've got there, like just talking about the live gigs and stuff that you've got coming up, I'm buzzing for you. So I can only imagine what's going on, like how you three are all feeling about it. I think that's great to hear that, and yeah, fingers crossed that, you know, the next gig you play, that could be the one that, you know, there's someone there that goes, here, there's a record contract for you, because if you're, you know, I think it's, fingers crossed, definitely. So if you could change one thing in the music industry, what would it be?
The way that bands get signed. That's it.
Take a lot of the money out of it. I think money can ruin industries. It becomes too money driven. Yeah. And it's less about the music and less about the product.
I think as well, like a lot of bands nowadays, you have to be a celebrity in your own right before you become an actual celebrity, you know what I mean? And I think it's very, I mean, obviously there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, but like I think it can sometimes be quite elitist, you know what I mean? Like there's loads of bands that graft, like bloody Pulp or whatever, got ignored for about 9 or something years before they actually made it big. Oasis, you know, bands like that got ignored for about 5 or 6 years, building up this hype, and then they got signed. And some of it was by chance, or some of it was because, like I said, because they worked. Or you just get these bands that get signed straight away, they get thrown in, you know, because somebody famous has spotted them because so-and-so knows so-and-so's dad, and, you know, then they get thrown into the deep end, and, you know, all of a sudden they're a megastar overnight. Or you get like some bands who, you know, like my classic example is Matt Healy from the 1975. He's like, oh yeah, I grew up around here and it's so hot. Oh God, honestly, I'm taking no prisoners here. Like his mum was on Loose Women, his dad was on Benidorm, but he's had it so tough.
He likes his tangents fine, doesn't he? He's off on
more. Do you see what I mean? Do you see what I mean? Though?
He's been on for 3 hours.
I've gone down now. On outside.
When is that?
But you know what I mean? Like a lot of bands like graft for it, and they really try hard, and some of them get nowhere because they give up and they're exhausted. And then there's like other bands who can get it overnight because they just have to say pretty please and do, you know. That's, I think, the way that bands sort of get signed. And I think, you know, record companies shouldn't like take the mick either, because there's a lot of bands who can get signed, and it's all well and good being signed to a record label, but and they're going to be like, yeah, we're going to take you out your jobs, but the money that we're giving you is not enough to live off. Like, I know money's not the biggest thing, it's getting your music out there, but, you know, it's a give and take, and if you're getting more taken off you than you are, you know, getting given.
Yeah. Sure. Leon, sorry. Leon, anything else on to add on that at all, or?
I don't know. I think Frankie's covered it there. Like, I can't even think of anything to answer with, to be honest there. Like, I didn't know.
Mind saying that if there are any record labels watching and, you know, you like what you say and you hear,
definitely. So
tell our souls, man.
These two already have seen the colour of the air, man. It's just me.
Brilliant, love it. So have you got any
Indian.
So have you got any advice for any aspiring musicians at all?
don't know.
Just play.
Yeah,
Just
I don't know
play
for
music.
in any place to give advice, like, but
if you play music, you're doing it right. Carry on.
I think if anything, just don't settle for anything less than exactly what you want, because you know, as you can have a band where they're like, yeah, I want to be the biggest band in the world, blah blah blah, but the money's in the covers, and then they're playing covers for the rest of life. Thing, no, fuck that. Like, you just got to, if you can stay true to yourself, and if you make any changes in your best interest and your band's best interest, then that's like, you know, that's all you can really do. And don't let anybody, just because somebody's got this and they've got this to offer, doesn't mean that you have to change everything about you. Compromises may have to be like a thing, but you know, you don't, you know, I'm not going to dye my hair ginger just because the record label tells us to.
Just some quick fire questions that are just for fun.
Yeah.
If you were an instrument, what would you be?
Tambourine.
If I was an instrument, what would I be? What would you be, Leon?
I don't know. Snare drum. No, big bass drum. I don't know.
Big bass drum.
Big bass drum.
Big bass drum.
Rebound drum.
Rebound drum, yeah. I don't know. I think I'd like to be a theremin. Just for the crack. It makes weird noises. I do when I'm tired. Sort of. You know. Theremin.
Okay.
An unpredictable instrument.
So if you were stuck on a desert island, what would be the one album that you would bring with you to continuously play?
Who Live at Leeds 1970.
Oh, great choice.
Yeah, I think that's my favourite album of all time, that one. Never got sick of listening to that one.
Either the most flammable one to make a beacon to signal a cruise ship on the way back so I can get off the island, or if I'm in case of certain death, an edible album so I can survive for a couple of days.
One album.
I'm just thinking logistically.
He's got 10 if we let him. You have to tell him one album. Right?
Just one, yeah, definitely just one.
Duran Duran, self-titled.
Nice.
It's not a crime.
I'll be London Calling for me, Clash. There's a lot of variety on that one. Maybe not my favourite, but there's a lot of variety.
Yeah, there is. Isn't
Keep you going, wouldn't it?
You wouldn't get bored of it, would you?
A lot of styles.
Okay. So can you describe each other in 3 words?
Should we start with you first? Me and you two. You.
This could end up being the end of the band, so I do apologise in advance. But
3 words.
Yeah, 3 words. Yeah.
Big man child. Maybe, I don't know. It's like he's the oldest in the band, but then we end up having to take care of him. It's all kind of tight.
After 1 pint, that's it. I'm done.
I don't know. I'll probably say he's definitely the humor of the band. You know, if anything funny happens, it's because Leon's done something, and you're a bit like, oh god. He'll come up and whisper something in your ear, and you cry laughing as soon as he walks away. I'd say like funny, don't know,
sexy,
yeah. Unpredictable, I would say, because sometimes you'll just come out with some random stuff and I'm like, what? Like, oh, Leon, are you doing? Yeah, no, so I'm just eating a kind of jalapenos at work today, and it was all right. What? From the jar. How about you? How would you describe?
I know I'll describe you.
You've got enough words to describe me. How would you two describe me then? Christ.
Noisy.
Sex God.
That's 2 words.
Right,
no, it's 1 word.
Is it
hyphen?
I'm annoyed.
Tangent.
Noisy.
I don't know.
Noisy sex God tangent. God.
What about Liam?
You probably put up with me more, haven't you? Pick us up and whatever, and mop us up off floors and stuff.
I'd say Rajed for Liam.
Yeah.
Rajed.
Daft as a brush. Yeah, that is Rajd and Daft under the same umbrella. I think if we're going more northern, Rajd, calm. You like there's like you have certain stereotypes in a band, and you have the calm one, or like the quiet, the cool, quiet one. He's always collective and a bit mysterious, and like I would pride myself on it being me, but it's not. It's in like
mysterious,
yeah. Like Peter Andrews, really mysterious. Raj, but somehow mysterious.
Ginger.
Yeah. And I don't know. Raj, mysterious and sensible. I'll put you as sensible.
I think he's off it, like.
Yeah, actually, no. If I'm thinking about,
I've not been called sensible.
If we're putting in the context of it's after a gig, all else about a break loose, it's Raj. You got to keep him on a leash, right? And you got to keep his belt around his waist. Backside coming out, there's no stopping him. So, Raj maiming. It's hilarious. There's never a dull moment. I think we're all sort of as loud as each other, like as sensible as each other, and it sort of shines in certain moments. So, you know,
we have a laugh.
We all there's all a certain time where one of us will have to call it and go, "Are we? Come off it."
Well, I can definitely say, picking up there, that you have a laugh. I can definitely say that is 100% true. I've definitely had a good laugh with you this evening. And unfortunately, that is the end of the podcast. So massive thanks to the Thieves for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as what I did, and finding out a little bit more about the band, how they started, their musical influences, and of course the recording process for their most recent single, MTV. Don't forget to follow the band across their social media channels, buy their records when they have their new singles coming out, and more importantly, get down to the gigs, which are coming up in June, July, well, across the summer. And I wish the three of you every success for the future. I think you've got a brilliant sound going on, and I think that you all mean it as well, and that's definitely come across in this interview today. Please, just finally, please click subscribe on your podcast listening provider and tell your friends, not just about This Is The Music, but more importantly, tell your friends about the Thieves, because that's what we're all here for this evening. Thanks very much.
Yeah,
thank you. Yeah, thanks for tolerating.
Not at all. My absolute pleasure. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
See you later.